Hello, amazing listeners. Are you excited to take your English to a whole new level? You're definitely in the right place. Whether you're learning while commuting or relaxing at home, our podcast is here to be your best companion for improving your speaking and listening skills.
Absolutely. Welcome back to the #1 English podcast. I'm John, and today we are going to teach you how to introduce yourself like a pro. No more awkward silences or nervous fumbles. Today, we'll focus entirely on perfecting self-introductions.
And I'm Emily. We've all been there, haven't we? That situation where you're asked to introduce yourself, maybe at a new job, during a class, or at a party, and suddenly your mind just goes blank. But don't worry, you're not alone. Today, we're going to help you move past that fear.
Exactly. We're going to break everything down step by step so that your next self-introduction flows naturally and confidently. And before we dive into it, make sure you grab our free PDF guide. It's packed with all the tips, phrases, and vocabulary you'll need to make your introduction absolutely flawless. You'll find the link down below in the description.
All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a self-introduction? What is a self-introduction?
Put simply, a self-introduction is when you meet someone for the first time and give them a brief overview of who you are. It's your way of letting them know a little about you right from the start.
That's right. Think of it like the trailer to your life. Short, interesting, and giving people just enough to get to know you better. Whether you're meeting a new friend, starting a new job, or joining an online group, how you introduce yourself sets the entire tone for the conversation.
Exactly. Imagine if you met someone and they just stood there silently. Awkward, right? A self-introduction helps break the ice and gives people a small window into your personality. It's your chance to be the star of your own story. And honestly, who wouldn't want to star in their own movie?
Definitely. So, John, why would you say self-introductions are so important? The importance of self-introduction.
It all comes down to first impressions, Emily. You know that old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, right? It's absolutely true. The way you introduce yourself can make you seem confident, approachable, and friendly. Or it can make you seem nervous and unsure if you're not prepared.
Exactly. We all want to come across as confident and likable, right? Plus, when you're prepared with a strong self-introduction, it really helps calm those nerves. If you know what you're going to say, you're far less likely to stumble.
It's like having a GPS while you're driving through an unfamiliar city. Without it, you could end up lost, but with it, you know exactly where you're headed. Preparation is everything.
Great comparison, John. Being ready not only makes your introduction smoother, but also boosts your confidence in all kinds of settings, whether social, professional, or casual.
And let's not forget, a memorable introduction can leave a lasting impression. People are much more likely to remember someone who introduced themselves clearly and with confidence. It's like leaving your mark on them.
Totally agree. Whether you're meeting classmates, interviewing for a job, or networking at a business event, a great self-introduction can lead to more opportunities and deeper connections.
In a nutshell, a great self-introduction helps you make an amazing first impression, eases anxiety, builds confidence, and ensures people remember you.
Perfectly said, John. Now that we've laid the foundation, let's move on to the fun part, how to actually build the perfect self-introduction. We'll walk you through it step by step.
1. Greetings. Let's kick it off with the first step. Greetings. Emily, if you were greeting someone in a formal setting, how would you do it?
Good question. If I'm in a formal situation, I'd use something like, hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And a quick tip, remember, good night is used to say goodbye, not to start a conversation.
Exactly. In formal settings, polite greetings set a respectful tone right away. Now, what about casual settings, Emily?
In a more relaxed atmosphere, I'd go with something like, hey, hi, or what's up? Something friendly and easy like, hey, it's great to meet you, can help create a comfortable vibe instantly.
Spot on. Picking the right greeting for the situation is key. You don't want to sound too stiff in a casual meeting or too casual in a formal one. It's all about helping the other person feel comfortable right from the start.
Exactly. Now that we've covered greetings, are you ready to move on to the next step?
Absolutely. Let's dive into stating your name.
2. Stating your name. The next key part of your introduction is, of course, saying your name. If I'm in a casual setting, like a small group or informal gathering, I'd simply say, I'm Emily. It's direct, easy to understand, and natural.
And if the situation is a little more formal, I might say, my name is John, or even, my name's John. For instance, good afternoon, my name is John, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Adding that little extra formality can really set the right tone.
Exactly. And in some specific situations, like if you're speaking on stage to a large audience, you might say, This is Emily, to clearly identify yourself. For example, Good evening, everyone. This is Emily, and I'll be guiding you through today's event.
And when you're speaking on the phone, it's polite to say, hello, this is John speaking. It immediately tells the person who you are and avoids any confusion. For example, hello, this is John speaking. How may I assist you?
See, tailoring your introduction based on the situation really makes a difference. Now that we've nailed greetings and names, let's move on to the next important detail, your age.
3. Stating your age. When it comes to stating your age, you can keep it very simple and clear. For example, I'm 35 years old, or just, I'm 35.
And if you prefer not to mention your exact age, you could keep it general by saying, I'm in my late 20s, or I'm in my mid-30s. For example, Hi, I'm Emily and I'm in my late 20s.
That way, you still give people a general idea without revealing too much personal detail if you're not comfortable doing so. It's all about what feels right to you.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to talking about where you're from, your location.
4th location. The easiest way to introduce where you're from is to simply say, I'm from New York. Short, clear, and easy to understand.
And if you're talking to an international audience, you might want to include your nationality as well, like, I'm American. That helps give extra context.
And if you want to make it a little more personal, you could say something like, I come from a small town in Italy. It adds a bit of storytelling to your introduction.
Absolutely. Saying something like, I was born and raised in Chicago, also shows a strong connection to your hometown and gives a glimpse into your background.
And if you've lived in multiple places, you might say, I was born in London but grew up in Toronto. It paints a fuller picture of your life journey.
Exactly. Or if you've moved recently, you could say something like, I grew up in Boston, but now live in San Francisco. It gives people a sense of where you've been and where you are now.
In professional contexts, you could say, I'm originally from Paris but now based in Tokyo. It's a great way to highlight both personal and career growth.
You can even add how long you've lived somewhere. I've been living in New York for the past 5 years. It gives more depth to your story.
Or if you've just moved, you could say, I spent the last 2 years in Berlin, which lets people know you're relatively new to your current city.
Exactly. Sometimes a simple location is enough, and other times, a little more background makes your introduction much more engaging. Now that we've covered location, let's move on to another important part, your education and qualifications.
5. Qualifications and education. When talking about your education, a simple way to put it would be, I'm a marketing graduate. Short, clear, and great for casual conversations.
If you want to sound a bit more formal, especially in a business setting, you could say, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Marketing. It sounds professional and polished.
And if you're currently studying, it's perfectly fine to say, I'm currently taking a course in digital marketing. It shows that you're continuing to grow and learn, which people really appreciate.
Absolutely. Lifelong learning always makes a good impression. So depending on the situation, you can either keep it brief or dive into a bit more detail about your education.
All right, Emily, let's move into another key area, Talking about your job and professional background.
6. Professional information, position, and company. When you want to share what you do professionally, you could say something simple like, I work at XYZ Corporation in the marketing department. That gives both the company and department without going too deep.
And if you want to keep it even shorter, especially if the company is well known, you might just say, I work for XYZ Corporation.
Exactly. And if you want to focus more on your specific role, you can say, I'm a project manager at XYZ Corporation. That gives a clear idea of your job title.
And if you prefer to keep things broad, you could say, I work in sales, or I work in finance. It's perfect when you don't want to get too detailed.
But if your position is particularly relevant to the context, don't hesitate to highlight it. I work as a deputy manager, for example. Again, it's all about adjusting the level of detail depending on your audience.
Exactly. Tailor your professional introduction to the situation you're in. Now, let's move into another important part of your self-introduction, sharing your experience. 7. Experience. When you want to talk about your work experience, you can say something like, I have 10 years of sales experience. It's a straightforward way to show your level of expertise.
Or you could phrase it slightly differently and say, I've worked in sales for 10 years. This way, you emphasize the time you've spent developing your skills in that field.
Exactly. And if you're discussing experience in another field, you might say, I've worked in accounting for 3 years. It's a simple but effective way to share your background.
It's all about presenting the information that's most relevant to the conversation. Sometimes being general is fine, but other times, a bit more detail about your experience can be really impressive.
Right? Now that we've talked about work experience, let's move to a more personal topic, your family.
8. Family. When introducing your family, you could simply say, I have a brother and a sister. It's an easy and natural way to give a little personal information.
And if you want to share more about the size of your family, you could say, we are a family of 5. It's a nice way to offer a bit more context.
If you want to mention your position among siblings, you might say, I'm one of 4 siblings. It gives a small glimpse into your family life.
And if you don't have siblings, it's perfectly fine to say, I'm an only child. Short, simple, and clear.
All right, now we're coming to the last part of building a self-introduction. Hobbies.
9. Hobbies. Talking about your hobbies is a great way to connect with others. You might say, I really enjoy playing tennis. It gives people something interesting to ask about.
If you're passionate about a hobby, you could say, I'm a big fan of hiking. That shows you really love it and might even inspire someone else to chat about it with you.
And if you want to express that you are especially dedicated, you could say, I'm a keen runner. It shows enthusiasm and commitment.
Exactly. How much detail you share depends on the situation. You can keep it light and casual, or dive deeper if you want to build a stronger personal connection.
Closing remarks. And there you have it, a full guide to crafting a strong and impressive self-introduction.
Before we finish, let's talk about how you can practice and polish your introduction so it becomes second nature.
Great idea. First, I encourage everyone listening to write down their own self-introduction using the components we covered today. Start by drafting it out. Don't worry about making it perfect the first time.
Once you've written it, practice saying it out loud. Stand in front of a mirror and deliver your introduction a few times. Focus on sounding natural, friendly, and confident.
Another helpful tip is to record yourself. When you listen back, you'll hear how you really sound, and you'll catch areas where you can improve your tone, clarity, or flow.
And if you want some feedback, why not practice with a friend or a family member? They can give you tips and help you feel more relaxed when speaking in front of others.
Exactly. And once you feel ready, we would absolutely love for you to share your self-introduction with us. Post it in the comments section or send it to us on social media. We're here to support you and help you grow.
The more you practice, the more confident and natural you'll sound when it really counts. At a job interview, meeting new people, attending a networking event, or even just making new friends.
And remember, it's perfectly normal to feel awkward at first. Everyone starts somewhere. Each time you practice, you're taking another step toward fluency.
Exactly. Mistakes are simply part of the learning journey. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep moving forward.
Quick recap. Today we talked about the importance of self-introductions and how to structure them step by step. Greeting people appropriately, stating your name clearly, sharing your age if relevant, talking about where you're from, mentioning your qualifications and education, describing your job and workplace, highlighting your experience, sharing a little about your family, mentioning your hobbies.
We also talked about the importance of practicing and the different ways you can improve your self-introduction through repetition and feedback.
And remember, your self-introduction is your moment to shine. It's your chance to create a strong first impression that people will remember.
Absolutely. Make it positive, make it personal, and most importantly, make it authentic. Thank you so much for spending time with us today on the #1 English podcast. We are so proud of you for investing in yourself and working on your English skills.
Yes, if you found today's episode helpful, we'd love it if you could support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with your friends who are also learning English.
And don't forget, you can find the free PDF guide linked below, filled with examples, vocabulary, and practice templates to help you build the perfect self-introduction.
We have many more exciting episodes coming your way, packed with real conversations, useful tips, and fun lessons designed just for you.
Keep practicing, stay positive, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself.
You're doing an amazing job. Until next time, stay strong and keep learning.
See you soon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care. Bye-bye.